Everyone, for purposes of our record and the transcription of our minutes, this is the continuation of the board meeting that occurred last Friday, which was the 19th. Today is the 25th, and this is the continuation of that meeting. We should indicate, again, by way of our minutes, that all supervisors are present, as was the case last Friday, too, by a Zoom call this afternoon. In addition, Mr. Pierce, Mr. Carter, and Mr. Brown are here, in addition to myself, on behalf of the staff, and we have a number of members of the public that are here this afternoon. The principal reason for our meeting is to review certain development documents in accordance with our purchase agreement for parcel 13, and Mr. Case is here as well. And so with that, Mr. Chairman, if you have or Tony has any additional comments of an introductory nature, then we'll get about the business.
Just one quick thing. Anything from, we're going old school today because our guy's on vacation. If you want to come up and address the board, please come and stand right behind Russ here and speak loudly so we can try to get it online. We'll do the best we can. Thank you.
Chairman, if it'd be appropriate for the board to make a motion to allow full participation by Ms. Hanson and Mr. Truckee due to exceptional circumstances.
I'll make that motion that we accept them as an exception for
full participation.
What he said.
Full participation. I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Dan, are you on?
Yes, I am.
There you go. You speaking aye? Aye.
He doesn't get to vote on that because he has to wait.
Oh, okay.
I know.
Yeah, I was holding my vote.
All right.
Hey,
moving on.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, Chair's indulgence, last Friday, I handed out to the board my initial review of my memorandum. And then Mr. Brown, your engineer, has subsequently provided an email or memorandum. I don't know if the board has that, Neil.
We do.
And those are our initial comments. And I think part of, and we appreciate the board continuing to today because the board needs to issue its approval, disapproval, or comments, objections to the submitted plans by the time after the next board meeting, immediately after. So this would be any comments the board has today or concerns or any comments the public may make that the board wishes to incorporate or adopt. Would give staff plenty of time to put together a document to then make it as part of the agenda packet for the next board meeting to be able to go out to Mr. Case and his agents in plenty of time. And so we appreciate it. And unfortunately, I'm going to be remote on the 16th. My nephew's getting married on that Friday, which is an interesting time today, up in Rochester, New York. So, but I will be remote. We'll have a person in person in a 24-hour office. So, and again, we have my initial comments on primarily on the plat. And the plans I leave to the engineer, although I did look at the master site plan. And if you note, I had a number of concerns with the dedication because it's not Cuyahoga County Utilities. I had a brief conversation with Francesca Casadomo about that. Well, my other concern on the master site plan dealt with the open space issues, ingress and egress. The site plan depiction of open space versus what's sort of scattered throughout in the middle areas. And then Mr. Brown, I don't know if you want to hear Mr. Jared, your email, like in a global perspective, what you articulated, your concerns.
Yeah, my major objective was to review it for utilities, how it impacts the Port of Islands and everything else. Their application was lacking most of the utility information. They haven't really completed the sort of design yet. So I primarily focused on making sure that they provided interconnects and met any obligations that they guys agreed to in the past.
One other aspect that's not in here, and Jared confirmed today through checking the South Florida Water Management District website, the developer and his agents have applied for permits to South Florida Water Management District, environmental resource permit and a water use permit.
They have not made a water use application.
Well, we asked that whether or not a water use permit application had been made. There's a reference in here to irrigation water, and Jared pointed that out, coming from on-site ponds, not using the district's reclaimed water system. I think, is that correct?
That is correct. There's some confusion in their application. Some places they say they use potable water irrigation. Other places they say they're going to be drawing from lakes. So I think there's probably just a typo in their application.
I saw that as well, and I think all things being equal, that the district would prefer also customer base reasons to retain the responsibility for irrigation water in the facilities there. It's conceivable that a future board would desire to go to a meter sale basis for irrigation quality water and retrofit the system. And I think all things being, I would prefer that the public district be responsible to provide irrigation to those home sites.
Yeah, and I've not double checked the rules, but the statute says we can require and mandate utilization and connect 190 does district systems and facilities. And I'm not an engineer, but one item I expressed with concern in my email was if there is excess capacity in reuse water and you have all your customers are taking it, and if one group of customers, 100 units, does not take it, and you have excess, you need to then find a disposal method, or you oversaturate and overwater common areas. Is that correct, Jared? It's only because I have another district that has sort of run into that issue where they have to take a certain volume from a provider and they have a certain number of customers and only use X amount, but they may get X plus.
Can that go into holding ponds?
It can go to holding ponds, but you have to take.
I mean, you couldn't use our existing holding ponds?
I believe those are already accounted for.
Okay. All right.
You know, one way other districts use it, they'll have like an open field.
Sure.
And they just kind of disperse and sprinkle on open fields. I mean, so that's one approach. That's why I asked the question about the irrigation.
41 would work well.
Well, keep all those things nice and healthy, yes. But so I'll double check the rules on that.
Okay.
Mr. McNamee also expressed another item to me. I'll double check on paying for the utility lines on Union Road, that aspect. But also I will double check and work with Jared and Kevin and Neil as to whether or not there's a mandatory requirement.
So this morning, Mr. Case came over to my house and we went through a lot of this paperwork. And the reason that we did that is just so that I could articulate what we have on our mind and what he probably has on his mind and try to save us a bunch of time in here and disagreements on different things. And what I spoke to our attorney about was, and this is going off of my memory because I haven't seen that actual thing, but it was discussed about him putting 9 homes over on the dormitory property. And in doing that, he was going to move the water line that's on the east side of the property over onto the Union Road at his expense. Is that all that's there? Is a sewer line?
That's all that you're being do.
Yeah, Mr.
Okay.
Case, a good point. Mr. Case, you can come forward so we can capture the comments on the record.
In fact, if you want to have a chair here, that would be great.
And just sit here.
Sure.
Huh?
Yeah, just sit there.
I don't, my understanding, because during these negotiations, I had left that off to my engineer and Paul Montez. So I figured I just was always confirming with my engineer, are we still at the same lot cost? How much more is that going to add? So I never really looked at the details. But what details you see needed and manifested now, that's what we need to know to get out, because as the buyer comes in, they're the ones that we moving into these different issues that relate to once they own the ground.
And what he spoke of is that the way they're looking at it now is putting all 109 homes onto the parcel 13. Now, I don't know if the board has agreed to the 109 on there. I don't know those facts. That's for you guys to know. Maybe it's already in a plat someplace. I don't know. But my thing was what I said as far as moving that high pressure line on the east side there. If that was negotiated with the old board and you folks, if that is in writing and it says that that's what he agreed to, we'll be holding him to that. If it's not in writing, it never happened. So we just have to know one way or the other.
And let me help take some of our knowledge to that. Exhibit I-1, I think.
I showed it.
Okay, so we know that I'm not here to debate any of those. I'm here to happily receive whatever we had agreed to.
Mm-hmm.
What's vague or nuanced, that's, if we can pause that for 1 minute, because here's where I'm at with the buyer. They've told me that they are willing to take on the water purchase agreement, but they're going to need at least 6 months to even know if they want to do this. So I'm kind of going to be hung out for 6 months on that. But they will come in and take those taps, and then they did say they'd like to just take it as is, just delayed 6 months.
At closing.
At closing. And so they may close in October, right? Or they may close in November. So to accelerate the ERC question, if we could simply extend it right now, 6 months, anything else we need to put on it, that's fine. Which would be, I agree that the buyer would have to assume it at that date. After that 6 months, then I think that this is a policy the board needs to work on with their utilities, and that is, Steve and I had thought, and I'm thinking this as if I'm a board member, and that's that I really kind of sense that there's a difference between owning them and reserving them. And perhaps the board needs to think about an annual reservation fee, so that once a year, if you want to reserve 100 taps, you've got to pay X amount to reserve. If you want, because if you're a builder and you want to go build 2 houses, you may want to reserve 2, because you're not going to keep the commit right away. That'll take 3 to 6 months to go get. So, but you want to know you got your water tap. So it's, you know, I figured 5% interest on whatever that would be. So if the tap was $16,000, 5% is $800. So $800 a year to reserve a tap sounded rational to me. Anyone here have that as a mark?
That's just the 5% on your money. That's not taking into account what we're going to lose on assessments. So let me cut to the chase on this.
Well,
so
yeah, then that's back to my field. Yeah. I'm thinking about it more as just any tap has to pay $800 a year for renewal. Reserve fee. And if you don't want it, if the project didn't get approved, you just don't reserve them anymore. And if you own them, you pay the taxes like the law requires. So this is why I've had resistance, because when I came, I had generally said, I'm not going to buy them if I got to pay the tax on them. So we left it to an ambiguous, hey, you got to build, you go to buy them at a building permit, or you got to buy them according to this accelerated schedule, which is what everyone thinks. So I didn't want to clash that right now. I just wanted to at least get us all to the page. We got a great buyer. This builder is going to transform this community forever. And what do I need to do with the board now to say to, so, because I can't sign my contract until I have the ERC deal done. And I don't want to have them come in and have something where they'll try to pit us against each other on some outcome. They're a good buyer and they have a lot of cash.
Now, I thought about this long and hard, because you got pluses and minuses to him extending 6 months. So I said, what will it cost the CID, the Port of the Islands, to grant him a 6-month extension on buying the 33 ERCs? First of all, it's about $500 or a little over $500,000 in cash that we would have. 5% interest, you're looking at roughly $25,000 that you would lose in interest. Okay, then once you own an ERC, you also start paying assessments on them. That's the way it's always been in the past. Okay, if you take 33 ERCs at $1,700, divide that in half, you come up with $28,000 and change. So I'm looking at this and I'm going, okay, let's just say roughly $60,000 it would cost us to let this go for 6 months. Okay, because my first initial thought was, no, you know, we don't want to do that. But with him coming with these buyers, if they're going to buy the ERCs from us on closing date, say 6 months from now, okay, then we get the whole $1.6 million in assessments and, or I mean, in ERC sales, and the assessments start at that time. Because the way it is now, it's only 33 ERCs this year, 66 next year, and the other 90, you know, the remainder of them the following year to come up to the 103 or whatever it happens to be. And all that time you're losing interest on that money and you're losing assessments on that money. And so the way I'm looking at it is, if we can get a guarantee that if this goes through, this will be very good for us that way. It'll cost us $60,000 to play that game. If we can get a guarantee that if the deal falls through, we get made whole.
I'm not sure where you're going with this, because right now I won't sign a deal with anybody. And I'm submitting my plat, and the comments brought today are all that we need to deal with.
But what I
can come to you later when I'm further through the plat, because on next Friday we're planning to resubmit the full package based on your assessment comments. And the comments that you made, we went through, I thought were completely integratable, and they just need to be brought more thoroughly to them. Points of access and easements and those things. The talk about the utility, because we did find in the cost sharing agreement, that's where it really talks about the things that you're most concerned about. You know, because yes, we talked about the high pressure gas line. There's nowhere in the documents that the numbers were ever written down. There isn't like that other packet of numbers that Holt Montez put in the deal. And so to my thought is that will come when it becomes an issue, because at least in our utility design now, there is nothing. And to be really clear, my engineers have been anticipating someone full-time on this board who looks at our blueprints, and we expected that last January. But when our guy calls and says, we haven't been hired to do that, we've been hired to just look at the district as a whole. And then my guy calls and says, hey, just design them according to county standards. So that's the standard we're using for utility layouts, because Collier County is probably the highest municipal oversight. Don't they manage four major systems? County?
a bunch, yeah.
So that's kind of the only thing I would just kind of add into this conversation that I think is, but there was nothing negative about that. As he began to talk to your team about how he was able to bring things forward, he said, whenever the board is ready to look at the utility layout, we'll do that, but we don't want to do that until we got the schematic of the plat on the county plan. Because he can, in the next 30 days, he's going to do the design of the utility.
Right, but your lot layouts dictate nothing.
Right, and it's really common. Yeah, it's common. Everything's happening. It's all kind of compressing in. And so this is why I just think from this board today, the clarity you can give me would give me clarity in my contract to sell. And that is, however we need to get to the ERC deal, whatever different rations or values, let's get to it, because there's a number. He doesn't want to just pay that much cash up front. He'd rather do it in relation to the houses. And I told him, well, they want to raise the price. So the maturity of the board's knowledge of that right now, if you can accelerate your thoughts, do you want to start a plan that will raise the taps? Because that also helps bring incentive into this new buyer or any other development in the project. You know, the 16,000 that I proposed is kind of something Ray Jensen had said, pay us more for this study. And I thought, well, I can pay you when it comes in a rational form in utility taps, because 4,000 is too cheap. And we really kind of kept that, but then we added something else. And so
That's why I brought up the 20 grand.
I think it's the best faith thing at this time with me, an engineer that had a major change in management. 6 months is fair. Let's just do it till March 22nd. After that, okay, it will be adjusted. I'll either make the 500 payment or they will, right?
Lisa,
That's about the type of commitment I could make.
let's have our chance.
So if this deal falls through, what happens to the ERCs? They're bought immediately?
Well, see, I can't even say I'm going to buy them because I've always never agreed to buy them and pay the dues on them. But Tony was very clear in our agreement that when you buy them, you have to pay the dues because it's statutory. And so this is why we had at the time of a building permit agreement, and this has brought the ambiguity. The only reason I signed it the day I was closing was because it said at building permit, or you can buy them at this accelerated rate. And then there was a separate clause that says, hey, you have until September 22nd, 2026 to close them all. So let's keep that let's just not change anything but the first payment. It doesn't force me to have to get more committal. It doesn't force you to have to do much, but know that you got a buyer that, and see, they can't spend any money on it until I sign the sale contract. I've been under a letter of intent with this builder for 60 days. Okay, we signed it on May 16th. I expected a contract. It took a week just to get a contract for the first contract. Man, it was so all over the map. Their new attorney had been working on another project in a different part of Florida, and he started coming up with all kinds. Does the site have access? You know, a bunch of issues. And therefore now this time we're through iteration number 7. How many did we have, Tony, if you recall, when I bought it?
Can we get back on track here?
Yeah.
Thank you. So I'm still looking to see what the bottom line is. What do we gain? What does everybody gain by waiting 6 months? If the buyer decides he's not going to buy the property, then what? I'm still waiting for that answer. I don't mean to be persistent, but I'm still waiting.
No, we have the same unknown that we did when you sold it to me, and we didn't know if I would get zone change. And I'm not forcing.
Yes, but you were going to buy these. You were going to buy 33 ERCs in September.
When I got building permits.
Is that how it's written?
Yes. I know exactly how it's written.
No, I have to go back and look at it. I don't think
I truly don't believe that's the fact either.
So, well, why don't we have Tony look at it then?
I didn't have because
I have it. I'll pull it up.
No, I understood. No, I prefer to look at my understanding was today's focus was to be well, my perspective was, so I didn't bring that other document with me.
Right,
was to be on with regards to get some input from the board on the comments.
Right.
With regards to the proposed submittal.
Right, and
the discussion, I think, Mr. McNamee's raised a good point. If the board has a concept of an approach that can be worked on between now and the next regular board meeting, Mr. McNamee, Mr. Case, and Mr. McNamee can tell the staff what might be a good idea to bring to the board if there is anything that he would recommend to come to the board.
I understand, but my problem with this is I don't know what you guys agreed to. You know, I heard a lot of the talk between the engineers and everybody, but what actually made it into the signed contract is the only thing that we can enforce. Just like the water line on the east side of the property, the ERCs, everything that I've ever read said September was the first buyout.
That's my recollection, but I don't have that with me.
Then there again, but I could be completely wrong. That's why I'm not pushing my point here, because I may be wrong.
But that's my recollection also.
Yeah.
Again, but I did not bring the contract. That utility ERC.
Yeah, I think the part about buying ERCs when permits were issued, I think were under the wonderful idea that maybe you actually were able to build the houses previous to the schedule of buying them. So I mean,
well, I have another question.
So
if indeed you're not obligated to buy them in September, then why are we pushing it out 6 months? If you don't have to buy them until you have the permit, then what's the request for?
It's extended.
I'm confused. So if it's not something that you have to do anyway, why do you want to push it out 6 months?
You know what she's saying? She's
Right,
saying if
I
you're
don't
not,
think I have to do it. You guys, it's a legal issue.
okay.
So what am I missing?
Him and Princess.
That, you know, to me, that's been the most disappointing part of this whole thing. Is it just
I'm
seems
sorry
like,
you guys missed the millions about at the table here. Okay, I'm not here with the games of you know, little street corners and maintenance stuff. This is $100 million coming into this community. The best thing to understand is every home's going to be at least $1 million.
really?
Absolutely.
Somebody's going to build $1 million house
You guys
on a
don't
block
understand
that's
what's
60 feet
happening.
wide?
Welcome to this area.
Somebody's going to build $1 million house on a plot that's 60 feet wide.
Let's hope so.
Boy, I'd like to take a
They're
big,
gonna, well,
big
hey,
bet on that.
I'm sorry if maybe they're only 700 grand or 800 grand. Oh,
But there again,
I'm
we
not-
don't get the money for
oh
selling
no,
it.
you don't get anything. Oh,
So-
poor the Islands gets nothing out of this.
Come on.
Well, that's my point. I'm saying this deal is so solid. It would be better for you just to work with Tony and figure out what with the engineer you need, and my engineer will work with that because they'll come together at the best, right? I don't have to sign a deal with the builder tomorrow. I would rather have him have to wait until he knows that you guys are familiar with what's coming forward and we know what the numbers are doing.
So if you sign this thing with him tomorrow, will they start coming and talking with
Yes.
us?
Oh yeah. I'm
So
out.
then you're out.
Almost.
Okay. All right.
So do it.
He said, she said, do it.
Do it. Let's
Wonderful.
move. Let's get this thing off square one here.
Okay, that's a very rational comment. Let's let the numbers fall how they will. The board will be cared for, believe me. Just the fact that they have $2 billion. Now, one thing they tell me in their meetings is they have $2 billion in cash. Okay, they have the money to do this deal.
Where else are they building?
They build in Fort Myers. They build up in that's Lee County. They build up in Charlotte County. Up in
Let's get back on topic here now. We're here to get on to his plat. Now, his plat has changed. Before he was going to have 3 lakes over there. Well, now the lake that he's got there now, that 5-acre lake that we've got out here, he's going to expand that to over double its size. And then there will be one over in front of the gun club. The things that he's changed is the lots have gotten smaller. They're anywhere from 60 to 62 and a half to 65 feet wide. The 9 that were over on the dormitory property have been pulled into this property. But other than that, not a whole lot of difference. And quite frankly, if the county allows him to do what he's doing on zoning, I don't know why the board would have any input on that part of it.
Yeah, it's not the zoning, it's that the contractual requirements plus the deed restrictions. And deed restrictions have site plans and alternate site plans. So the question is whether or not the board's perspective, what's proposed is consistent enough with the covenants and the site plan that the board and the contract that the board approved.
So
those are my comments that I made referencing the plan.
And I read him all those comments.
Yes.
And a lot of those are clerical. Would you not agree?
The one that might be is the open space question. I mean, the parts about ingress, egress, the dedications, those can all be, they may just been oversights in the review, and they granted that. But I think the other comment was the one with regards to the open space.
Yes, whether the whole community was able to use them or just their community.
Correct. And as I look at the plat, there are a number of open space tracks, but they're all small and they're all like on curves and on bends.
Oh, on the new plat?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. For
Okay.
example, if you look at the exhibit C and B that were in the deed restrictions, they have cross hatching. It's hard to see. But actually, A, B, and C, all 3 site plans had larger areas crosshatched for open space.
Yes.
Whereas if you look at the plat,
I thought water was later to be allowed in that.
well, but I guess from the standpoint
We're
that
not saying you
functional, I
won't
think
be
a
able to.
functional open space. I mean,
Yeah.
open space consistency with the site plans that are attached to the companies or not.
So what
That's one of the questions the board needs to say. Okay,
Can I ask my engineer to do a quantitative study for the board?
it's up to the board.
So what I'm looking at here is, I personally like the looks of this new great big lake, and he's got walking paths all the way around it and so forth.
Are there walking paths?
Yeah. We pitched this, or the last board pitched this as this green space was going to be able to be used by the entire Port of the Islands community. And I really would like that put in writing, because I would really like for the people of the community to go and enjoy these lakes that they've got there.
Exercise pass. Yeah.
Any of that stuff. And
Remember, all this land has been dedicated as, you know, they might do some amenities in here, but there's still a lot of land here. That's almost 10 acres right there.
But that can all be developed as well, though.
Well,
It can be.
This plan.
Well,
I mean, it can
this
have
plan is not included in this,
Yes,
is it?
it is. Yes.
It's all one plat
It's all
now?
one
Well,
plat.
no, but again, the description of the walking path, when you look at the plat, it's different. If you look at the plat
Right.
around the lake, there is no separate platted
Okay.
walkway or open space.
What's the date of this
The open
document?
space,
Is the date of that document the same as this document? So this is what's happening. It's evolving.
Yes.
this is, it doesn't say the date on it. I'm trying to find it.
Down.
I know, I'm trying to look at the date on this on
I
the
forgot to
margins.
bring my
You're able to
magnifying
tell what
glass.
date the plat was? It's hard to tell, the plat. But if you look at the plat indicates it will provide the various areas for utilization. I understand the plans are a bit different than the plat. If I look at the plans, it's master site plan.
Go for it. You probably know what you mean.
Part of what happened with us is we got this buyer, and he started
Date
saying, we want to do this and
There-
this
oh,
and
there's
this.
the date.
So these are why there's been some
June
changes. in the last
2024.
30 days.
June, that's all it says, June 20.
Yeah, I'm saying this is a lake maintenance easement all the way around those lake tracks. But if you look at the plat, and actually I think you were referring to, Mr. McNamee, if you look at the plat around the lake tracks. Okay, there's no, the open space tracks are like here. This one along Union Road is open space, or track F.
Yeah.
But then
There's a whole other set of plans here if you guys are interested. There's 2 sets of plans right here.
yeah, I mean, I had in my memo I outlined which were designated as open space, and a lot of them were this. Oh, here we go. I circled the open space tracks. Right here.
Oh, they're really little.
This right here. That's open space. That's open space. That's open space. That's open space.
Oh.
And see, that was my concern versus what if you look at the open space on the initial site.
Yeah.
I recognize they were conceptual.
Yeah. Right.
And this seems to be more consistent with its lake maintenance easement, but also open space around those lakes.
That's how this was put to the community at that time. Do you not agree? That the lakes and stuff were going to be open space for the community?
Absolutely. Yes. I
So,
thought
and
it
again,
was.
if you look at
to
the-
me, I always figured it's going to be the future HOA and then this POB.
If you look at the site plans attached to the deed restrictions, the crosshatch areas are open space.
Right.
And so that's where I made mention of the fact that they are these are open space.
Yeah, I think we need to go back to our original plan and make sure that, you know, the community can use this, because this is going to be very, very, very nice. And especially if we can ever get that 7 acres of land from the county, and have access to the, you know, let's just say if every star lined up and we ended up with elderly care in there, which I don't know that that'll ever happen, but just to say we did. If they have the ability to walk around that pond and all that sort of stuff, I mean, that's a hell of a selling point. In fact, that whole property would get to be worth a lot more money if if it had access to walking around that pond.
Yeah, and
If I may,
in my
if I may
memo,
for just a moment.
Okay, go ahead, Dan.
One of the things we had talked about back when we were going through this was the fact that our easements that run from the water plant out to 41 and the sidewalk that goes all the way down for Case Drive, we could basically hook the whole community together with a walking trail that they could start on one end. They do have to cross 41, but it would take them around the backside of Orchid Coves Pond and up to our water plant where we have access to come out into this plot we're talking about now with Lindsay. That could all be hooked together in some type of green space the whole community could walk. And I hate to see that go away.
We could possibly even get some crosswalk put in there with lights on it, possibly at some point, so it'd be safer for people to cross 41, but that's down the road.
Yep.
I understand what you're saying, and I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, I do too.
Mr. Chairman, on the open space, if you look at my memo.
Yeah.
Paragraph B says the plat needs to designate discrete areas as open space for use by property owners within POI CID.
Right.
It does not. My comment number G, it's actually 1G. The various tracks B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, and K, while designated open space are not the open space depicted on the above referenced parcel 13A site plan.
Yeah.
These 10 small tracks are scattered throughout the development, not compliant with deed restrictions, and not substantial in accordance with the site plan. So that's.
And I read him that this morning, and we discussed that.
Okay.
And
Yeah, that I didn't pick. I haven't been picking up all this because there's no consideration for all this 10 acres over here.
but you are in agreement that this should be open to the public, right?
Absolutely.
Well, Port of the Islands,
I
not to
think
the public.
It's
Port of the Islands.
Port of the Islands.
Yeah.
I felt that all the streets should be in sidewalks. I didn't ever see it as an isolated community, only if it needs to be. It's designed so it can be, but it's, again, while I'm the one bringing the proficiency of the developer side, I really think that it's the team here that wants to say, whatever you want.
Right.
Anything that's affordable.
Well, go ahead.
You're in for all of it.
I got a question about the lot sizes. You said they're 60 feet?
60 to
They
65.
want to go to 62 feet.
62 feet by what?
Say
Say
at least
average.
100. At least 100. 62 by 100.
There's a bunch of them at 60,
So they're 100.
a bunch
Okay.
of them at 62 and a half, and
Okay, I didn't know
some
they
are
were.
at 65.
I didn't know they were 100 foot deep.
Yeah, they're
Okay.
deep.
Okay,
I
so
mean-
what's the setback? What the county setback on that in the side?
About 7.5 feet on each side.
Yeah, so
We have to look at the
25
plat,
in the front.
and I think, yeah, I think the plat references a 20-foot setback in the front.
yeah, and the plat,
But he's talking between homes.
the plat. See, any of these layouts are aligning with the.
I'm just trying to picture that what type of home you're going to build. It's going to
Have
cost $350 to $400 a square foot
Have you seen
to get an 1,800 2,000 square foot home in
There
there.
again, that's not up to us.
No.
Have you been
But
to the
this
ones
is what
that
he's
Horton did over there
selling.
off of Sable? San Marino?
No.
That's exactly the same product.
Really?
Yeah,
Where is this?
it's not them though, but it's not Horton, but it's like a Horton. Right there at Sable and Collier. There's and the hospitals nearby that
Yeah.
Is that Hacienda Lakes area? No.
could be,
Around
but
there.
I just not sure that.
Sable
but
and Hacienda?
Sable-
No,
No,
Sable and
Sable.
Collier, Hacienda Lakes is around that area.
Yes.
They might be further north.
Where they're
I'm
doing
not
all
sure.
that new building.
Oh, are the houses built yet?
Oh yeah.
Oh.
They did 250 lots. In
Okay.
2.5 years, and I was pushing Horton to come here really hard, but they just didn't want to come down here. And so this new group is wanting to expand in Collier County. They felt in their capital division they would want to come here.
Okay.
So this is the first thing they looked at in the county. The new builder I'm talking.
Okay. These guys know what they're doing, obviously, or they wouldn't be doing this. So if they think that they can make this work and make a profit on it, we're going to get our assessments. It doesn't matter what their size lot is. It's
Right.
it's one ERC per lot or whatever our meter charges end up being in the future. So,
This is.
I don't want
Very good.
me personally, I don't want to micromanage this thing. All I want to do is make sure that we get access to the green space that we had originally thought of. If we can still, and I do believe that we should be able to ride our bikes down their streets and walk down there just like they do in the entire rest of this community. Nobody's blocked off from going anywhere. And I don't see why this would be any different. But as far as us telling them lot sizes and what a house costs and all that sort of stuff.
Well, you brought it up.
I understand. I understand.
I don't, yeah. If the county's good with it, I'm good with it.
But again, and on this point with regards to the easement, I referenced in my memo again, the easement for ingress and egress over the streets and roads must be designated and dedicated for the purposes of access to and from the open space areas in favor of Port of the Islands and property owners.
Right.
That's in the deed restriction.
Right.
Also.
So what are we here to clear up?
Well, we're hoping we get comments from the board so we can incorporate one larger memo and then bring it back to the board for final review and approval next week and send to Mr. Case in his group as to whether or not the board approves or disapproves of what's been submitted.
So then he can go after his final
permit. And we'll make corrections.
Yeah.
Because again, if they're resubmitting to the county next week, I guess your team's doing it. I'm not
yeah, right.
But if he's planning on resubmitting this next Friday and not correcting some of the issues that we've addressed and have another plat that doesn't match what.
No.
Okay, because we started out talking about money.
He's planning.
I understand that's different.
That's a whole other thing.
Well, that's what I want to know. What do we got to clear up?
I think it would be good for the board to affirm the suggested changes in Tony's memo,
in Jerry's
company memo by Jerry, and affirmed by my one comment about the irrigation. It would be our intent to have the irrigation owned by the district, and then we'll produce a final suggested provision to submit to them.
I would agree with all of that.
Is that a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
I second it.
Okay. All in favor? Any more discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
In between now and the next meeting, I will get with Mr. McNamee and work on another deal on the issue about the ERC's timing.
Now, what else do we want to discuss while we have in here? Do we want to discuss more on these ERCs and the purchase time of it, or do we want to wait for you to come back? You tell me. Well, my problem is I don't have all the information, nor does the rest of the board.
And I don't have the agreements with me.
Let's defer that to the subsequent board meeting, August board meeting.
Let me ask you this. Will the board consent to extending it till no later than the 22nd? And then at that time,
March 22nd.
March 22nd. And at that time, I'll pay him. I'm not guaranteeing anything. I'm just saying that's what the agreement will be. I haven't finished. And then, but my agreement is that with the buyer, they'll buy them all now at closing. And
when's the closing?
Their closing is when my plat is approved at the county, and they're able to go do
rough and tough.
Well, it's right now ready for September. I mean, my existing plat, we believe will have full final comments at the 1st of September because we're getting them in next Friday. This would be our second round of comments. So we think it'll be on consent in the end of September or the 1st of October, best case scenario.
So all we have to do is get to the closing, and then we get the ERCs anyway,
the
right?
whole amount, all of them.
But what if it falls through?
Yeah, if it falls through, what's contingency?
Then we just have the same agreement in place that we may have this meeting on March 21st.
But in the meantime, we lose about 60 grand.
Right.
You mean if it
falls through.
So here's what I'm thinking.
Or you get $1.6 million.
Everything has to be according to how it was written in the agreement on the sales agreement that they both signed, but the old board came up with and they agreed to it. If they said in there that he has to buy them September 22nd or whatever, that's what needs to happen. If it doesn't, if they didn't put it in there, we screwed up.
Let's
just like the same thing with the water line. If we didn't put that in our contract, and we talked about it, but we didn't put it in our contract, guess what? They screwed up another $300,000.
But in the meantime, are we going to consider the 6-month extension or not? I mean,
I think my suggestion is that board take that discussion item up at its regular board meeting, so the board can look at the agreement and have it in front of us, post us guessing what's in it. That's just my suggestion.
Well, are we going to delay you though?
All I said to the board is, would you take $1.6 million in March and just extend it? And let's not talk about what if, this, that. Let's just assume these guys are doing the deal. And if you don't want to do that, then I don't have anything else really to talk about. I don't want to belabor anything. You've got very succinctness on that. I'm saying that empowers me. I almost don't think I need to ask them. Because if I go there and I say they'll take $1.6 million, I know they'll take $1.6 million when they close. But if I'm delayed, then it's going to be painful between September and whenever. And whatever that pain is worth to us, I know that's it, really. It's kind of gentle. Let's be gentle.
I don't have a problem with it.
We want to.
You don't have a problem with it?
No.
I do.
How about you, Dan?
I do have a problem with it. I think that the original agreement right now, it gives us, when they negotiated that, it was $3 million for the property and another approximate $2 million for the ERCs, and they talked about bringing in $5 million, right, with the property sale. If we extend 6 months, we lose the obligation that Lindsay has to actually buy it. If this deal doesn't go through, we have to somehow maintain that agreement that he has to buy these whether the deal goes through or not. That's what's in the contract.
Oh yeah, that was my understanding. He said he would.
They negotiated a good price.
No,
Yeah,
he said he would purchase.
But my thing is, it's got to be what's in that contract, because
The problem is the contract's ambiguous, guys. It's that simple.
and that's what
And
makes lawyers a lot of money.
I'm saying it isn't 60,000. It's not like you're missing 60,000. Did you forget the 110,000 my $3 million gave you last year? Did you forget the other 110,000 they gave you this year?
Got nothing to do with it.
Right, it has nothing.
That has nothing to do with it.
Because you're sitting there talking about me pressure gas line change, $300,000. That only would have been done if I was getting 9 lots. But then instead, there's still a passion that thinks, well, you still owe the $300,000. And this is supposed to be a collaborative effort with Paul Montez and Grady Minor, and now the new firm needs and if you want to make the hurdles to getting into this deal more cumbersome for a buyer, any buyer, then just push it off to the next board meeting. And that's okay. But what really needs to happen is, you said it, you had, what's her name? Lisa had the most intuitive insight. Just one, she's not against it, and that she said, let's just get it done.
I hate the word assume.
Fair enough. We can do it.
I just
clarify it now.
Is it my understanding? Is it my understanding that we push it out for 6 months, Lindsay, and you said at 6 months, if it doesn't go through, you'll buy the ERCs then? That's what I heard. Did I hear correctly?
I said, and what I will do is I will extend nothing changes. All we're doing is saying, instead of being September 22nd, it's March 22nd. That's it.
So that's not what what you just said is not what he's agreeing.
We don't want to write in more stuff. I don't necessarily agree that what's going to happen in September is what you think is going to happen. And we don't want to get in a contest, because that doesn't bring anyone success. And I don't really want to get into it now. And to me, it's only a benefit, and it may not be a benefit for me to sign a contract tomorrow, but I won't sign a contract with anyone until I know the board is ready to go, that we figured out the ERC deal, because that thing took me 2 weeks of delay just for them going ERC. And I thought, this is not good. I need to get my plat recorded. At that time, a new buyer will decide that's all they're getting. If they want anything else, they're going to have to go back to the county on their own behalf after they've met the district.
This idea that we've made a bunch of money on our interest on that money, that is so far off the mark. what if we spent that money? I mean, once you bought something, I mean, I don't even get where you're coming with that whatsoever.
Neil does.
No, he doesn't.
May I one more time, Steve?
Go, please.
Okay. What I see here is I don't have a problem extending 6 months. There'll be a cost to extend 6 months, which is like around $60,000. All right, we can extend 6 months, but the obligation that we have in the contract to buy just gets pushed back for 6 months, but that contract doesn't change. The obligation to buy is still there. 33 this year, 66 the following year. All right, that would all stay the same. So even if it didn't sell, if the buyers don't buy and the development doesn't take place, he's still going to buy those ERCs as scheduled. The only addition will be that it'll be a $60,000 hold-off fee for this next 6 months. And that will be subject to it that he'd have to pay too. So I don't mind the 6 months as much as I mind trying to change what the contract says.
I agree.
So if Lindsay can handle that, then let's do it. I mean, if you're that sure that they're going to sign, what's the problem?
Crossing out March and crossing out September and making it March and initialing, let's do it.
Yeah.
Is that what you have in mind, Lisa?
That's what I thought was happening, that if the thing doesn't go through, that he's still going to make us whole in March. So what's the difference?
How is he going to make you whole?
All the terms and conditions are the same.
He'll buy it and he'll pay what we lost.
He'll buy the 33.
Yes.
Right.
And give us the 60,000. We have nothing to lose at that point.
Do 6 months later.
Right. So there's
the question, my sense is, just so I can
go for
my arms around it, is that conceptually the board seems that the discussion going towards extend the first takedown, I'll call it, from September this year to March, 6 months, exactly to March of 2025, and extend all the other ones.
No.
Keep them the same? Okay.
Keep them the same.
I can, for the amount of $60,000. All other terms and conditions.
No, I'm not paying the dime for it.
Boy, you guys.
No way.
Okay,
Apparently you haven't been listening.
You would only pay that if it didn't happen.
I won't listen if it means I pay money. Not now. I mean,
Where was that 5% you were talking about?
that comes in the deal.
What
You
deal?
get it out of the buyer. Or I buy it, I'm buying next year, or all the other terms and conditions are the same.
Yes, but Lindsay,
If we push it to March.
it was only going to happen if it doesn't go through. So what's the problem?
Question?
I said if the deal doesn't go through, then you would buy the 33 and pay the 60,000.
And
if it doesn't,
I'll have land that's platted too. And that's when permits can be issued. And yes, that's when I'll be buying.
So you want a guarantee of 60,000 from Lindsay if the deal falls through?
Yes.
Cover your losses.
He'll just move. We just move the date up, and we'll cover our losses. It's a no-brainer for both sides.
Following what she's saying.
So in March,
60,000 comes from.
it's what we're losing.
Only if you don't get a contract.
Show me that.
I thought you were talking about the interest on that 1.3 million that we.
Well, that's 1.3 million.
This is 60,000.
This is just 500,000.
Right, and if it doesn't go through, then you would pay it. If it does, this is the conversation is moved.
I said earlier, 5% of $500,000 is about $25,000. Right. When you buy 33 ERCs, you are required to pay the assessments on those. The assessments on those are roughly $28,000 to $29,000. That next year's little under $1,700 assessments. It's not hard to figure.
And I guess the question, Annalise, correct me if I'm wrong as to what you're saying, just trying to get a handle on this.
Yes.
Would be that the board would agree to amend the agreement that the first takedown would occur March 2025. And if that doesn't occur, not only do those ERCs go away, reservation, but you have to pay $60,000 in March.
Not that.
Is that?
No, they don't go away. He has to. If the agreement, if his buyer does not buy the ERCs, then he buys them and pays us $60,000.
Also pay assessments for those 33 ERCs. If you buy them in September, the assessments start in September.
But you can't charge for assessments and debt too.
I don't know.
Only, Lindsay, it would only be if the deal doesn't go through.
Really?
Right.
I'm obligated to buy them in a certain time. This is where a lawsuit would go if the ERCs were problematic.
We want to do everything we can that it's going to go through. So we don't,
That's right.
we don't put any block. We don't want to block it.
Just go March.
What she's saying is,
I know.
we're taking the risk of this not going through.
Right.
We're taking the risk.
There's always
And we're saying, why should we take the risk?
I'm not taking.
I don't think there's a risk. I don't think there's a risk for us to extend this 6 months. We could make it simple and say there's a $60,000 processing fee to make this 6-month extension. And if buyers don't take over, Lindsay's under the exact same contract he is now. The only difference is he's paying his ERCs now in March instead of September. All right, so just call it a $60,000 processing fee for this 6-month extension that has to get paid.
We're going to apply that to all taps in the future district. So whenever Tom wants to start doing any reservations, you're going to start charging him $60,000 for his lot, for his taps he needs. This is the very question we need to go as a board, and that is that there should be a reservation cost per year.
Lindsay,
Yeah, but you don't
No,
want to change
that's
it.
not it.
We already
Hang on.
have it.
But if
Hang
it
on,
goes,
You're
our
missing the point.
consultant,
Goes away.
our consultant under the new analysis and our new consultant,
Then you send a letter to the county that says you no longer have water reservations and you will not be able to get a permit on that property
right.
again.
So there you go.
Steve, our new consultant and our analysis says right now we allot the ERCs. They don't even have to be sold if they are allotted so that they're coming out of our total. If they're allotted, we can charge for them. That's exactly what the new consultant said. We paid him for the study. So we don't even have to sell the ERCs and we could be collecting on them. Lindsay's got a break because he has them allotted and he's not paying for them because his contract gave him a break and allots him to pay for 3366 and the rest. All right, that's a special deal. According to the consultant, we don't have to do that. We could charge on allotted ERCs before they're even sold if we have to allot them to someone. So it's there. I don't see the problem.
And I would rather have you guys have a policy on it for everyone in the district than me come and create it right now. I'll just have to deal with my biller in a different way. And once you have your consultant's comment on what I should pay for reservations, if the deal didn't go through in September, you still have the obligation to serve the land. I mean, it's in your district.
Yeah, that's why we talked about $20,000 ERCs after that.
Exactly. Why don't you milk my future guy?
I'm just wondering why you think there could be a problem. If all we have to do is make these minor adjustments as to what's county owned versus what's CID. Is there something else that seemed to be a problem
On this?
with you and your buyer?
No, everything's smooth. They love the
Everything's good. So
highly
why-
refined.
So if he's going to close in September,
Well,
No.
they still have to make sure that the grading plan is approved. There was some comment you said that my team didn't prepare, and I don't know what that is, but I'm sure they'll be on it.
What he's not talking about is a great deal he got at the beginning.
so it may not close in September because of other mitigating factors.
Well,
How fast did our purchase close? Ask Tony. He was the one that guided the whole team.
Got the whole team operating.
It was,
Don't bother.
we contracted in February. We closed in September. I'm not even contracted yet. But I think I brought this so far through the county process here. I've done what a builder would want to do. And if you guys want to be in the ownership of this deal, I'll happy to structure a deal and let you be in the ownership. Okay? Because I don't want anyone thinking I got some special deal. It's been a lot of work, and it's still a lot of work, and it'll be another 6 months of work, but this is the fruit that is being born.
Neil, do you have a comment?
Not really. I didn't know we would have this level of discussion today. I
might as well.
I'm absolutely convinced that the plat will not be approved in September.
Fair enough. What do you think then? In your
I haven't been. I'm just telling you. I spent 20 years down there.
Okay.
If you think you're going to have a plat approved at the September County Commission meeting, it is not that bad.
No. We never. It would be approved by the staff, put to the county.
No, what you said earlier was that it would be on the consent agenda and approved in September.
September or October.
I don't have any reason to believe that.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I would say let's defer this for another day. We complied with the request. We have some minor suggested amendments to the plat. He submits his final application and we move on.
Okay.
Okay, moving on.
That motion or
Yeah.
We were just
Are
talking.
you willing to take the whole amount?
I'm not the decision maker.
What?
Are you willing to take all the taps at once?
The 1.6 million?
Yes.
Gee, I don't know. Would we want to do that?
That's why I didn't think I even need to ask you. Maybe I'll just go negotiate that, and they're willing to do it. You'll go, okay, we'll do that case.
Of course we would.
Hey, I know this. Once you know who it is, then you should be willing to go, okay, we'll take their credit over mine all day long. Right? So let's just leave it at that. Is there anything else I need to help you with? Can I let my team know that Tony will reply to from the board's comments on what was talked about for the plat?
Yeah, there will be a final memorandum that will incorporate his comments of July the 18th and those of the civil engineer.
Okay.
And I would think that you'll have that, if not
You'll have that within
middle of next week.
middle of next week, so the board can finally bust it, approve it at its meeting in August 16th.
I don't even know if you need to do that. I think that this is part of the record today, and if we'll have a draft, we can have,
Sure, we had it.
yeah, I said.
Public comments.
Any other?
We still should have public comments,
Sure.
right?
Frank?
I have a question. Did I understand that over the period of time, I'm sorry, I should know this.
I was going to say, you told all of us.
Talk about embarrassing. Shame on you, Frank, dummy. Did I understand that the work that's been done by the previous engineering company over this long period of time has not been to county standards? Is that what I heard today?
No.
I don't think so. No.
There was a recommendation that I read that said that the plans needed to be put to county standards. Did I misread that?
No. His team asked us if the Port of the Islands Improvement District had its own utility construction standards manual, and I indicated they do not.
Okay.
And if you want to move forward, then I recommend that we would defer to the county's adopted construction standards for purposes of design.
In that case, my position is I wish our good previous engineering company had made that recommendation years ago, and we'd be that far ahead today.
Let it go.
Thank you.
Let it go.
Any other public comment?
Yeah. Thank goodness you're here.
Hi there. I'm curious about the results of the soil borings that were done in the area because of the concern about lead from the gun range.
Dan, did you hear that?
I'm here. I did.
Your question? The soil boring for the lead and whatnot over there?
Okay, so I don't know about Lindsay's soil borings that they have to do to meet the county standards, but I can tell you that the groundwater has a certain amount of lead and arsenic in it.
There was in the March 7th meeting, it was said that the county does not require testing for potential contaminants whoever Mr. Case has retained a geotechnical firm that's going to be doing soil borings in these areas. The GM technical firm.
Right.
So you have the results of that?
Okay,
Those
yes.
me and my engineer will reply because it's not something I oversaw.
Okay.
We also did transportation engineer, and there were a couple other storm basin engineer. There were like 3 engineers we hired.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all. See you soon.
Thank you.